What's up, good people? My name is AJ, and you are watching Straight Talks. I'm really excited to be making this video here today because this is exactly the strategy I use to get my internships and full-time job in the finance industry. This is a strategy that's now much easier than it was 40 or 50 years ago, but I believe less people are doing it now than they were in the past. If you're in college looking for internships, or if you're going to be looking for full-time positions soon, if you're already working in the field and looking for another job, or if you're in another industry wanting to go into finance, or maybe just in any industry in general, I think this strategy can help you out a lot. What we're talking about here, some people might call cold contacting or cold emailing. I'm going to explain what it is, how it can work for you, and the best way to implement this in your situation to land the job that you want. If you've ever watched movies about people in economic downturns throughout the 1900s, whenever they start looking for work, they get a stack of resumes that they print off at their local printing store because no one had printers at home, and they go door to door through the entire town handing out resumes looking for jobs. And that's what I'm talking about here, but just in the virtual age. If you haven't heard about this cold contacting strategy before, just let me be the one to tell you that many people use this successfully to get the jobs that they want. Like I said, I have. Look, everyone, it's not difficult. You're going to keep a Excel document called your master document. This is the most important document to the entire process. You're going to keep lists of names, numbers, email addresses, dates, and contact information for hundreds and hundreds of people that you need to reach out to try to land a job in the field that you want. Trust me, I know that it can seem really difficult to get a long enough lists of contact information to actually have enough people to reach out to increase your chances of landing a job, but it is not hard if you do it the right way. It's a pretty tedious process. It is definitely a grind. I would say for people who do this well, they might end up spending 6 to 12 months on it. I was probably around 7 to 8 months when I did this myself, but it is well worth the time. If you treat this strategy as a second job to whatever else you're doing at the time, whether that be college or other full-time work, and you commit the necessary time to successfully land conversations that you want to be having with employers that you want to be working at, I guarantee you will at least find a little bit of success with this strategy, if not actually land the exact job that you want. Really, the first step is to understand what location or what industry you want to be working in. When I was doing a lot of cold contacting, there were 2 cities that I was comfortable with moving to. I didn't want to have to pick up and go across the country to land a job that was in the industry I wanted to be working in, which was wealth management and finance. Everyone's scenario is going to be different though. I know some people move to California from Boston, or some people just stay in their hometown where they grew up to do the job that they want to be doing. So whatever your scenario is, you just have to know in your mind where you want to be working and what you want to be working in. And probably the second part of that statement's more important. I don't want to make this seem like some magical land to high paying job strategy that you can just use with no experience and no interest in a certain field and then just land a top managerial role or something like that. You really need to know what you're looking for, and then you need to determine which firms operate in the field that you want to be working in. Once you've actually decided that you want to be working in a specific part of finance, for me that was in private wealth management, and hopefully in a financial planning type scenario, which is where I landed, then you can really start to pick up your efforts into contacting as many people as possible. The next step is try to find HR manager contact information, if not partner or owner's contact information, and you're going to start logging all of that in your Excel document. Work email addresses are going to work best. I think LinkedIn connections are good too. Personal emails are okay, and phone numbers are all right, but you might find some difficulty if you just call up an office and say, hey, can I talk to the owner? You're most likely not going to get through to that person, whereas if you send them a LinkedIn message or an email to their work address, they might spend 10 seconds or 15 seconds looking at it. The best way to get more names and email addresses to contact is going to be on Google, and it's super easy. Everyone knows how to use the internet, right? So for me, I was just searching the 2 cities that I wanted to work in and live in for my career, and the industry, wealth management or private wealth management, financial planning, financial advising, any similar term in Google. And I would look at the first 500 search results, click all the websites, and see if the company seemed to be anything that might be of interest to me. If it was, I looked at their About Us, looked at their, hey, here's our team, got their email addresses from the website. If they didn't have email addresses there, find their LinkedIn's, send them a LinkedIn connection, send them a message on LinkedIn and ask for their email address. Whatever you can do to hound these people to make sure that you can get your message in front of them. Another strategy that might sound funny but actually works is if you get an email back from a lower level manager, but you know you need to get an email to the partner of the firm and you can't get their contact information, if you have their name, because it should be listed on the website, and the person that you contacted was Mary Smith and her email is mary.smith@ascent.com or whatever it would be, just try the partner's name. Maybe it's Joanne Wilkins, joanne.wilkins@ascent.com, right? Use the same format that their email addresses are listed out in and send an email off to her. Maybe try it 10 times. If that's not working, try a middle initial, try the most common middle initial names. I don't know. Be creative, because again, you need to spend some time at this and make as many attempts to contact the people that you need to get in front of as possible. Look, this is not traditional networking, so I'm not telling you to go to the job fairs. I'm not telling you to go through the recruitment channels that these firms have or anything like that. I want you to get in front of them virtually by email, LinkedIn message, and potentially phone calls as well, if maybe you've gotten like a first base contact back from that person. Again, I can't believe how few people are actually doing this here today. I've been in my role for 5 years now, and I'm certainly not like a manager or a hiring manager, but I have a little bit of seniority and I have like some designations that people could see on my LinkedIn. And I can probably count on one hand how many times I've been contacted by college students or people new in the industry asking for a chance to meet with me just to learn a little bit about the industry in my area and potentially inquire about getting a job. It's just so uncommon right now, and I'm surprised more people aren't using this strategy. But that's a good opportunity for you, because that means that you know that all the hiring managers out there at the places you might want to be working in aren't seeing this type of stuff all the time. And let me tell you, no matter what scenario the economy's in, there's ups and downs. Companies need good people. If you can do what I mentioned earlier and present yourself as a solution to a problem that person might be dealing with or the firm that they work for might be dealing with, then you're going to give yourself a good chance at getting an interview with them. I feel compelled to say it again though, you have to know what you're talking about. You have to know what you want. Once you've picked out that specific industry and subsector you want to be working in, know the issues that those types of people deal with. Know the current affairs. My example, when I was looking for jobs, the Department of Labor had just changed regulations on how retirement plan advisors had to administer those plans, 401ks and things like that. So my first interview, one thing came up from one of the partners. I sat down with two partners that had to do with, I can't remember exactly what they mentioned, something about how they had to spend time on a certain task over the next week. And I said, oh, hey, what is your strategy for the Department of Labor law? And I had just figured this out on Google 5 minutes or probably 30 minutes prior. I didn't know a ton about how that law was going to affect them, but I just knew it was something that would be top of mind for them. So you need to know what's important to them. You need to actually know about the firm, and then you can really present yourself as a good solution to their problems. Okay, last point in getting as many contacts and finding as many firms that are in the industry you might want to work in as possible. Google Maps. It might sound funny, but I would literally get on Street View and look for the business districts in those two cities that I wanted to work in that I mentioned earlier, and click down Google Maps on Street View. If you haven't used it before, just try it out. You'll see what I'm talking about. Look side to side on Google Maps Street View for businesses, and when you see like skyscrapers, you can Google all the tenants in that skyscraper. There are a lot of firms that you've probably never heard of before, and probably few people know are actually in those locations, especially when they're renting a section of a skyscraper. But with the amount of information that's out there on the internet nowadays, which is why I say this is so much easier than it was 40 years ago, as long as you spend the necessary time, you're just going to be able to find a huge list of potential employers in the space that you want to be working in. And if you do this for 6 months, maybe for a couple hours a day, and you're really pinpointing the specific industry you want to be working in, I had 130 people on my list that I ended up contacting. I've heard stories of people when they're cold contacting that they've talked to 300 or even I think up to 500 different people. So don't think that you're going to be limited by the number of people that you can reach out to. This is not a high success rate strategy. Like I said, I reached out to 130. I think I had probably 20 messages back. I know I got somewhere around 8 to 10 face-to-face conversations, and then those turned into a handful of interviews where I actually ended up with 2 job offers. And I did this for like 7 months, an hour or a couple hours a day. I got the job I wanted. I'm working in the industry and in the city that I wanted to be in, and I'm super happy with that. So just know that it's not fun while you're doing this cold contacting. It can feel like a grind, and there's going to be a lot of rejection. You're never going to hear from people from time to time. You need to be relentless in your contacting of these people, because the reality is that most are going to ignore them, and that's okay. This process can feel like a failure from time to time because you'll go weeks where nobody emails you back, and you just have to understand that that's going to happen, but do not give up. Because if you want a job in a certain field, this is the way to get it, and you need to not stop at anything to make what you want to happen in your career a reality. So that brings me to my next point. Your message, whether it's LinkedIn or emailing, needs to be able to be read in about 20 to 30 seconds. It has to be short, it has to be concise, and it really needs to perk their attention and make them go, wow, yeah, I should spend 15 minutes to go sit down with this person. The next most important factor of your message needs to be explaining to them how you can help them, and that's what's going to get them interested in talking with you. That point really lends itself to what what I said a little bit ago, which is that you actually need to know what field you want to be working in. You need to have made up your mind that you want to be doing credit analysis, or you want to be doing wealth management, client-facing role, like in my scenario. Once you know the types of activities that a person in the role that you're shooting to get might conduct, you can really plug yourself into that person's scenario. So an example is, for me, I wanted to be a client service specialist in a financial planning role to kind of break into the wealth management industry. So all the emails I was sending out to folks that said, hey, look, I want to be someone who handles your financial planning software and manages the financial planning system that you run at your firm. Could I be of service? And though I did know that I wanted to work in financial planning, I didn't know which softwares these firms were using. I didn't know their specific process to manage their financial plans, but I knew that it was an activity that those firms had to consider, and it was something that those managers or partners or owners that I was contacting had on their mind. And so when they see someone come to them and say, hey, I want to help you out with this, and it's something that they actually deal with on a day-to-day basis, you're going to have a much higher chance of getting a response from that person, either just a short email back or maybe an acceptance to meet with you for 10 or 15 minutes to learn more about you. Now, here's a scenario where this strategy might not work so well. If you're looking to get into a top tier role in your industry, in finance, that's going to be like investment banking, private equity, maybe hedge fund. If you're like in medicine, I don't know if this would work really well in medicine, to be honest, but like neurosurgeon or plastic surgery, I think is the top three. Look, there are more traditional funnels that those types of positions go through. I know for investment banking and private equity, you most likely had to go to a top tier university. You most likely went through a formal vetting process, interviews, internship, at the top banks before you got into IB or PE. So I'm not saying it's totally impossible, but it's going to be much more difficult to break into these industries by cold contacting, and that 300 number might need to go up to like 900 or 1,000 or something before you'd actually find success in the more prestigious sectors of your field. I don't want to be discouraging if you're hard set on getting an IB opportunity and you didn't go through those formal funnels like a top university in finance or had the internships that you needed, anything like that. It's not impossible, but you're going to have to grind way harder than everyone else, and maybe that's okay for you. To bring this thing full circle, back to that Excel document that I shortly mentioned at the beginning, you're going to have 100 lines. You're going to want to make sure you have like email, phone number, date of contact if they replied, and notes of the conversations on different columns across the Excel doc. You could get creative with it and add a few other things if you want. That document is kind of going to be the Bible of your future for the next 6 months or 12 months, because it's going to dictate what opportunities you can find for yourself. Keep it updated, refer back to it often, and as you're making all these contacts every day, make sure you're updating it. You don't want to miss anything. You could put like reminders on it after a week to follow up with certain people if you wanted to do something where you hit them up twice or 3 times for every opportunity. Whatever you think is working best for your scenario, make sure you're logging it all in your master document. I'd love to hear some success stories if this cold contacting strategy has worked for anyone in the past, and certainly if you watch this video and then it ends up working out for you, please let us know in the comments down below. I'd happy to go back and forth with you on it. That's basically all I have, everyone. So if you have any questions for me, leave them down below. I almost answer all of those. And as always, thanks for watching.